Okay, well, you know what? I think it's time, don't you? Let's get the show on the road. So good evening, everyone. I'm Gareth Thompson. I'm Executive Director of the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley. My pleasure to be here tonight with you for the Banff Candidates Forum on the Environment. And I want to begin by acknowledging that we're within the Treaty 7 region, which includes the traditional lands of the Niitsitapi, Yahe Nakota, Tsuut'ina, and the Métis people. And I want to say personally, I'm very grateful. I mean, yesterday was this wonderful Truth and Reconciliation Day. I'm very grateful to be living in a time when we're listening to these important First Nations voices, working to reconcile our relationship with First Nations and with the earth itself through events like this one. So let's get to that. I'm tonight's moderator, and it has been my pleasure to help organize this event along with my colleague Kendra Hogue in the front row here. So Kendra and I are with the Biosphere Institute, a community environmental organization that seeks to empower community leadership to address environmental challenges. To do that, we have a Wild Smart program that deals with human-wildlife coexistence. We have a SHIFT program to promote community climate action. We have a community hub to connect community members, and we have an education program for students. We've got a very busy fall lined up, and some key events are listed on a table at the back. So I'll point out that, Brenda, just wave your hand. There's Brenda with Forever Canadian and collecting signatures on a petition for Alberta to remain part of Canada, which is a crazy notion, but there you go. If that's of interest to you and you want to sign the petition, go see Brenda at the end of the evening. And then just next to her is a table full of posters and things of some coming events, courtesy of the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley. On behalf of the Biosphere Board, and speaking as a former member of Canmore Town Council, I was on Council 92 through 95 back in the day, we feel it important to ensure that candidates for election have the chance to share their thoughts on the many dimensions of environment as we have, as they will tonight. I'm grateful to those who helped sponsor this evening, Bow Valley Naturalists, and there's several leaders within that organization here tonight, the Bow Valley Clean Air Society, Bow Valley Engage, and an anonymous donor through the Edmonton Community Foundation. I'll just flag, and I'm an executive director, so it would be wrong if I didn't talk about money at some point. It's just kind of how we roll, sorry. We're running at a bit of a loss for this event. If you feel that tonight's event is helpful to you, I invite you to make a donation. There's a green sheet here. You can point your phone at it. You can go online. There's through the Canada Helps app. There's one above Brenda's head. So don't stare. If you're staring at Brenda, they're just staring at the donations form. There's one on the back there. So anyway, that's if you want to help out, and we'd love the support. Just takes a minute or two. Speaking of online, I'll flag for you that tonight we've contracted with Chill Audio Video Solutions, and because I know you're very observant people, you'll have noticed that the table at the back, you got the 4 cameras hanging around. We got a total of 9 microphones, believe it or not, in the room. And we have tonight's meeting available online. We currently have 26 participants watching the GLAD event online with it. I want to say hello to those folks. And of course, the entire forum will be available after tonight on the Biosphere Institute's YouTube channel. Those watching online can ask questions when the time comes, and I'll more on that at that time. So it's my pleasure to introduce some very special people, the candidates. I'm going to list them by alphabetical order, by last name, and invite them to give a smile and a wave. There are 14 candidates for the 6 council spots. Michelle Backhouse. And save your applause till, I know this is hard, I know. But I want to say a few things about these folks and what drove them to run for council, and then we're going to thank them, but we're going to do that at the end. So, Alan Buckingham, Grant Canning, Ted Christensen, Seth Enrique, David Fullerton, Mark Ledwidge, Chip Oliver, Barb Pelham, Hugh Pettigrew, Kaylee Ram, Mark Walker, and last but not least, Leslie Young. I'll just flag that Brian Standish is also running for council. Mr. Standish declined our invitation to attend the Environmental Forum this evening. So as I mentioned, I was once a councillor. I was once a candidate for town council, just like these fine folk you see in front of you. And I know from personal experience what it's like for these people. It's very much these days putting yourself out there, isn't it? And I know that they're doing some very hard work in the hopes of becoming a member of Banff Town Council. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge hand to these fine folk who seek to serve you over the next 4 years. Folks, they like you, so far so good. Here's the format for this evening. So, in just a few minutes, each candidate will give a prepared 2-minute statement that addresses the environmental theme of the forum. Next, these candidates will pull a question from a hat. Kendra, let's unveil the hat. We've got the hat. That these candidates will be dreaming about that hat this evening. And more on that later, though. The questions from the hat will come kind of in the middle. Then it will be your turn to ask questions of the candidates, and then both you and I get a chance to ask questions of the mayor, who's consented to be here this evening as well. I'll try my best to get us out of here by 9 p.m., and with respect, I'll try and drive the agenda to make sure that happens to get you home. So I'm going to request that anyone here tonight who wants to say anything, I'm going to ask that you use one of our 9 microphones. Whether we have many of them on the tables here. There will be, when the time comes from Q&A from the audience, we'll have 2 cordless podium mics in these aisles. And that's just simply so that not only can everyone hear what's going on, but also we have this important record that'll occur on YouTube, and these important people that are, watching virtually, they won't hear us if we don't speak into a mic. So that's my request to you. To kick us off, Banff Mayor Corey DeMano was elected by acclamation, and I've invited her to talk to us briefly tonight about Banff and environmental stewardship, the community plan, and her vision for what she'd like to see happen in Banff over the next 4 years. I'm just going to say it. Mayor Corey DeMano is one of my favorite people. And please welcome your mayor, Corey DeMano.
Thank you, Gareth, and thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight and those watching virtually. For many years, we've heard that we would like a variety of forums, so really appreciate the Biosphere hosting this tonight. And I've quickly learned there's no guidebook for what you're supposed to do when you become acclaimed, so I really appreciate you making space for me to participate in tonight's forum. And on that note, I just want to say that it is a true honor and a privilege and a responsibility to be acclaimed. I love serving this town that we love so much, and I hold that really close to my heart, and I take it very seriously. For the next 4 years, I'm committed to listening, collaborating, and working together to ensure that we are building a resilient, connected, and thriving Banff. Because here in Banff, our environment is the foundation of our community, our economy, and our shared future. Protecting and preserving it is a responsibility we all carry. It's what makes us Banffites. And so this is why I'm really proud of the partnerships we have, especially with the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley. As a former board member, I can attest firsthand to the small yet mighty team that empowers leaders, community members throughout the Bow Valley to tackle environmental challenges head on. Because climate action is a community-wide effort. And together we've made real progress. So, Rome Public Transit is now the 3rd largest transit agency in Alberta. Yes, give it up for Rome. And we have hit 2.4 million riders so far in 2025. That's up 14% from this time last year. We've got 40 buses in our fleet, and about 1/3 of those are electric. This past winter and spring, we moved mountains to prepare for wildfire season through fire-smart efforts and stronger regional collaboration. The Library of Things is helping us rethink Banff's economy through sharing, reuse, and a more circular vision. And we've made huge strides on the Zero Waste Action Trail, as well as our Human-Wildlife Coexistence Roundtable. But of course, there's still more work ahead. And the new Banff Community Plan reflects that by setting ambitious goals to become an environmental leader on the global stage, a model of sustainable tourism, and a beacon of stewardship. Our vision includes promoting the protection, restoration, and maintenance of ecological integrity in our natural capital, transitioning to a low-carbon economy powered by renewable energy, reimagining our community as a circular, sharing, and reuse economy, building infrastructure that is efficient, sustainable, and future-ready, and preparing for climate change impacts, from wildfire to weather extremes. As a municipality, we believe in the art of what's possible, and that's what drives us, to imagine, to act, and to lead. Finally, protecting Banff's environment is about our shared values, our love for this place, and our responsibility to future generations, and to make sure they feel the same awe and connection that we do here today. To quote the incomparable conservationist Jane Goodall, who passed away today, "You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make." Now, like you, I look forward to hearing from the candidates tonight who are stepping up and ready to serve this remarkable community that we all call home. I'm oddly enough sitting on the other side of the table tonight, but if I was sitting there, I know I'd have some clammy hands and a little bit of fierce sweat and nerves, so please just give them a round of a hand. Because we're all so glad that they put their name forward. So thank you again for coming tonight.
Hey, let's just, we won't talk about Jane Goodall at length, but you know what? So there's this thing, Jane Goodall, as you guys know, wonderful, famous primatologist, wonderful environmentalist, and died at the age of 90-something, like, 91, oh my God, that was news to me, so. And so there's this quote from Odysseus, something along the lines of, when they tell my story, say that I walked with, in the time of Helen of Troy, say that I walked with, and the name that, substitute the name of your favorite Greek god. Tell them that I walked with giants. And those of us who care about the environment, let's just remember that we do our thing and we get to walk with giants. We get to walk with people like Jane Goodall and some luminaries who live in Banff and live in Alberta and live in Canada and we're not alone in our interest in supporting the environment and doing the right thing. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the candidates. And the candidates will each speak in alphabetical order by last name, so beginning with Michelle Backhouse and moving down the row. I'll invite you to speak for no more than 2 minutes, candidates. And to help you with that, we will give you a 15 seconds left warning. Kendra, cue the awesome Kendra in the front row. And she'll hold that up. That's yellow. That means start to think about stopping. Just like the yellow, like amber. Yeah, we couldn't find amber, but it's yellow. Anyway, so there you go. And we also had a timer that makes in my view, a uniquely irritating noise that will go off like a rocket at the 2-minute mark. Kendra. I know. And so when you hear that, it's not time to get up. It's time to stop. And I'll invite you at that time, if you're still talking, to kind of to wrap it up. And so I invite you, candidates, to avoid both public embarrassment and possible deafness, actually, in the face of this uniquely irritating timer. So with that, Kendra's going to hit the timer. She's going to get her yellow card ready. Yellow card is 15 seconds left. Red card is like, it's about time to stop. And Michelle Backhouse, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Backhouse. I've been in the Bow Valley for about 12 years. You might know me from the Banff Life Days in this building, making some pasta. You might also know me from the Bow Valley Food Alliance. One of your, I also had experience with your Banff Fire Department, the Banff Greenhouse and Gardening Society, and all of those to say, as well as a ecotourism institution. And so all that to say that Wellness and resilience is in my heart for this community, and that depends on a healthy ecosystem and environment. It is what drew me out here in the first place, like many others, but it is now something that I consider as beyond my four walls and roof as a home. So yeah, I think if you allow me to dream a little bit in the seat of council and any one of these other individuals, I really think that Banff can be a leader in a nature positive policy place globally and nationally. And I also believe that our future depends on these courageous decisions. They're quite bold, but we are in a national park, Canada's first, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which means that humanity is actually depending on this place to thrive and survive. And I think that for all of us, it's in our hearts as well. So thank you for coming out and being a part of this conversation. I know a lot of you have been doing the work, so it's important to keep our voices at the table. Our lived experience is exactly what's needed to really flourish the rest of this environmental conversation.
I wasn't sure if I was waiting for introduction. First, I want to thank you all for coming, and thanks to the Biosphere Institute and partners for putting on this forum. It is so awesome to have a different opportunity to share my thoughts and visions for the community on this very important topic. So, how do we prioritize the environment in everything we do? And it kind of feels like the default thing to say at the Environmental Forum, but it's also what I believe, and it's how I try to live my day-to-day life. And that doesn't mean I don't do things that aren't good for the environment. I for sure do, unfortunately. But that lens is always foremost in my decision-making. And personally, that involves prioritizing buying used stuff and trying not to buy things that we don't need as a family. It involves debating trade-offs of efficiency versus replacing something that still works, amongst all the other things that we all do on the day-to-day, recycling, composting, our personal transportation choices. But still, we flew to Europe this summer as a family, and we still buy books we like to put them on a shelf and maybe read again, even though the first time we read it probably was getting it out of the library. Not everything we do as a family actually puts the environment first, but we always think about it, and we try to think about it early in every decision we make. And I think that's how we should work as a municipality as well. How do we prioritize the environment in everything we do? And I know we have lots of priorities, and there's lots of complexity, and it often feels like priorities are competing, but we should still be trying to prioritize the environment as much as we can. And we won't always be able to put it first, but we need to always be thinking of how we might do so. And if it's not first, what might we do to mitigate any effects our decisions will have? The town of Banff talks a pretty good game on the environment and does a lot of great things, but I would still like to see us doing a better job of following through on what we say.
Candidates, I won't jump up and down like a jack in the box, and I won't interrupt the flow, but Alan Buckingham, thank you very much. And then as we go down, just announce your name, and then for those who, in case the name doesn't pop out on the YouTube, or somebody in the back row can't see your name. So announce your name, and then you do that, and I'll stay seated if that's okay. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Grant Canning, and it's a real thrill to be here, and it's great to see such a wonderful audience with us. For me, the environment and ecological integrity in any national park is the highest priority, and it really is our superpower here in Banff National Park. You know, we all live in this national park. We are all part of the ecosystem here. We all take great pride in being stewards of this special place. But perhaps where we differ sometimes is how best to do that, how best to be the stewards of this place, and what role each of us should play in achieving our goals. In my mind, in many ways, our community is built on contrasts. Protecting our environment is essential, but too often we think of ecological integrity to be in competition with businesses or visitors, which is something I actually disagree with. There is no reason why we can't work toward common goals that accomplish both. For example, why can't we identify and work towards the single goal of improving things like wildlife corridors and connectivity, while also considering initiatives that improve visitor experience and enhance quality of life for our residents. They do not have to be mutually exclusive of each other. They can actually complement each other. And this is the very essence of the human use management framework, which I've been advocating now for over a year, and I continue to advocate for. This idea of a framework is not new. Sarah Elmaligi and CPAWS came up with a human use management strategy for Banff National Park in 2020. It's a document I've read numerous times, and I have a lot of respect for it. And I really think that's the kind of thinking that we have to look at moving forward. So in my mind, you know, as we go through a comprehensive, holistic human use management strategy for our park, it's really important to involve our entire community. You know, we have 9,000 residents in this community, and we all have a desire to make sure we get this right. Thank you.
Continue on. Check. Thanks. Friends, supporters, critics, the truth is out. Pardon?
Keep it to your mouth.
Keep them, thank you. Oh my God. So I'll start again. Friends, supporters, critics, the truth is out. I'm Theodore, proudly named after my paternal grandparents, and a name that in my small rural Alberta town that I grew up in was unique, and people thought it was sometimes appropriate to tease me with that. So I learned to fight. Then my parents called me Teddy, which I grew into Ted. So just a little bit of an explanation there, but I'm still ready for the fight. I decided that in my campaign line, I would revert back to the rules of incorporation. And there should be a article in the Outlook coming up that will explain it further, but I wanted to mention some key points in that document. That we are to maintain the town as a World Heritage Site, to maintain. We are to serve its primary function as a center for visitors and to the park as a whole. We are the doorstep. And we are to provide the widest possible range of interpretive and orientation services for our visitors. We are to maintain a community character which is consistent and which reflects the surrounding environment. And that's one of the key reasons we're here tonight. And then we're, of course, to provide a comfortable living community for those of us who need to reside here. Am I over my 2 minutes? Well, not unusual for me, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Seth, and I wear many hats. I'm the rector of St. George's and the Pines Anglican Church here in Banff, although you may know me from Banff Food and Friends, where we have the privilege of serving over 300 meals for free every week to the community. I'm also a renter. I'm also a husband. I'm a father of 4 children. And I've spent the years that I've been in Banff serving our community that we love so much. And one of the key aspects of my service has been listening to story after story of struggle, of resilience, stories of hope. And so this posture of listening and also hearing what our community is saying and experiencing, these realities are also part of my lived experience. And so I firmly believe that leadership begins in a posture of hearing and listening. Now, as the evening goes on, as you get to know me, I do not have all the answers. I don't pretend to. I'm confident that this room is full of people who have way more knowledge than I do. But I think that leadership is about listening, taking into account the expertise that is around you, and letting that inform you to make credible decisions based on fact and knowledge. Now, one of my core convictions is that we live in a beautiful creation. And so I believe that not only is the creation that we inhabit is so beautiful, but that we are created to be stewards of this land. And so that perspective is a core conviction of mine. So that means that I'm not going to approach the environment, our ecosystems, as raw materials to be extracted for human benefit. We have real problems in this town that need real solutions, and I look forward to learning those with you, but I won't do any solutions at the expense of our environment. Thank you for your time.
Well, now I feel like I have to stand.
I know.
Hi, my name is David Fullerton, for those of you who don't know me. I've been asked a lot in the recent weeks why I'm running for council, and I have a variety of reasons why I came to that decision, but you know, the more I think about it, I can boil it down to one simple sentence. I love Banff, and I mean that. And there's a variety of reasons why I say that, but I moved to this community 2 decades ago, not because of the town or some amenity it had or a business opportunity, but because of where it is. We have the fortune to live in one of the most beautiful, pristine, and delicate environments in the world, and I truly believe we have an obligation to protect it. Now, I'm not an environmental expert. I don't have a degree in biology. What I do have is a degree in pure mathematics, which is all about complex problem solving. And I have a professional doctorate in chiropractic, which has taught me to hone my listening skills and think critically about problems and work collaboratively to find long-term solutions. That's the skill set I want to bring to council, combined with my diverse experience in this community. I'm a business owner here. As a business owner, I understand the need to find sustainable solutions that actually work in the real world. As a father who raised a daughter in this community, I really am worried about the environmental legacy we're leaving for that next generation. And as a son of senior parents in the community, I know all about the need for long-term planning that meets the needs for all of our residents. Now, the EMP and the Banff Community Plan have some very lofty goals and some great vision. But to bring that vision to fruition, we all need to work together to make informed decisions that balance the needs of our economy with the reality of our community. That's what I want to do with council, is work towards finding that balance and turning my love for Banff into effective governance. Thank you.
I'm not going to stand because then I won't be able to read this. My name is Mark Ledwidge. I've lived most of my adult life here in Banff. We're fortunate to call Banff National Park home. Without this park, there would be no town, as we know it, a place where nature, community, and culture come together. As residents, we live in one of the most beautiful and visited places in the world. And with that privilege comes responsibility. How we are to manage our presence here, both as a town and in partnership with Parks Canada, is essential to preserving what makes Banff special. Canada is home to 48 national parks, and I've had the privilege of visiting about half of them, primarily through my work. Each one is special, but Banff is unique. First, it was the first national park, and the people who established it were true visionaries. They looked beyond the usual 4-year political cycle and laid the foundation for a legacy that we must now protect. We owe these people a lot. As over-tourism becomes a reality, we must address its consequences. Let's imagine a Banff that offers something more sustainable for residents, for visitors, and for the park that made this town possible. I studied environmental science in Lethbridge, albeit some time ago. While most of my career with Parks Canada wasn't directly tied to environmental protection, I had the privilege of working alongside biologists who kept me grounded in ecological principles. Let's remember, this town, the town of Banff, is not an enclave. Environmental issues don't stop at the boundaries, and the wildlife certainly doesn't recognize these boundaries. The town of Banff has a responsibility to welcome the world responsibly. We must do our best to work together to protect what we love and ensure Banff remains a place of beauty, balance, and belonging.
Oh, thank you. Can I just test this first? Yeah, good, thank you. Hey, I'm Chip Ulver. Thank you for coming out tonight, and for those who are watching and listening, thank you. My daughter and I were working side by side one day, her on a school assignment, and me practicing out loud on a climate change presentation. I apologized to her for being a distraction, and she said, "Mom, I'm just doing homework. I'm proud of you. You're trying to save the world." That moment continues to inspire me today. I'm past chair of Green Communities Canada, and this is a long one, past change chair of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Climate Change and Sustainable Development Policy Committee. I was instrumental in the first bus purchases by Rome Transit being hybrid models instead of diesel. I belong to Climate Reality Canada. Recently, I've become involved with Seniors for Climate and a Green Inc. book club. I was on the Biospheres board for close to 10 years, some of that time as a volunteer and some as a council representative. I consider myself a champion for environmental action. I support the actions the town has taken to reduce corporate greenhouse gas emissions. They are on track to exceed the target of 50% reduction by 2030. Collaborating with the business community on zero waste initiatives, opportunities for climate action, and reducing emissions. We need action from governments and businesses, but we are all part of the solution. We don't need 2% of people living a low-emission lifestyle. We need 98% of the population.
Funky little stainless bucket. I installed a smart thermostat to reduce my GHGs, and I actively led a Fire Smart campaign in my neighborhood and installed an all-metal sprinkler system. I truly do try to walk the talk. I'm committed to working with my fellow councillors and mayor to find balanced, workable solutions. I bring an analytical mind, strong work ethic, and proven problem-solving approach to council. My track record shows thorough preparation, independent thinking, and accountability. I continue to strive to make meetings more efficient, to deliver better value to you. As a longtime Banffite, parent, and former business owner, I have a deep understanding of the pressures you face, and they shape how I approach decisions about housing, childcare, community, and the environment. Thanks in advance for voting for me. Yes.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Hugh Pettigrew. I think you know me from doing my community work over the last quite a few years. I've lived here since 1982, raised a family here, and for the last 4 years I've had the honor to serve for you on council. I'm running for re-election, residents, and for the environment. Let's face it, I've seen a lot of changes in 43 years being here. I think, and I believe Banff is at a crossroads. Rising visitation, affordability challenge, climate risk are real, but so are our opportunities. We can manage growth smartly, protect wildlife, and value for money. I believe in practical solutions, strengthening Fire Smart, advancing renewable energies, and looking at emerging technologies when it makes sense. We must protect what matters, our environment, community, quality of life, and that will take teamwork with Parks Canada, and I promise to remain the same Hugh, that is. I'm approachable, honest, I'm visible, I do ride my bike. It's human-powered. Act, lead, share values. One of the things that Ted mentioned was the incorporation agreement. It's also about providing quality of life for the residents. Thank you, Ted. You ran out of time. I fixed it one more time. Thank you, everyone. And I look for you on October 20th. But there's advanced polls on the 15th, 16th. Check the website. It's great.
Okay, sorry. Hopefully everyone can see me. Thanks to Biosphere for hosting tonight's forum, and thank you all for being here tonight and for caring about Banff and for taking the time to learn about the people putting their names forward. I'm Kaylee Ram. I'm running for re-election because I care deeply about our community and the people who make Banff such a special place. This is my hometown. It's where I'm raising my kids, supporting my aging parent, running my business, and staying involved, whether that's through volunteering or lacing up my skates for a local hockey game. Banff is where people come to build their lives, just like I have, and that's something worth protecting in the face of climate change. Over the past 4 years, I've worked to support affordable housing, improve quality of life, and champion local environmental action. I'm proud to have backed initiatives such like expanding Rome Transit, the Library of Things, the single-use item reduction bylaw, and efforts to strengthen our wildlife preparedness. These kinds of local climate actions make a difference, and I will keep showing up for them. Looking ahead, I want to keep pushing for tourism that gives back to our community and to make sure Banff stays a welcoming, inclusive, and livable place for all ages. I'm not a politician. I'm your neighbor. I bring a steady, collaborative approach to council, and I always try to listen first. I'd be honored to have your vote and to keep working with you to build a Banff we are all proud to call home. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Walker. I realize I don't know a lot of people in this room, and I would love to get to know you over the next 3 weeks or so. I've lived in town for 18 years now. I'm also raising my own daughter here. I've spent most of that 18 years educating and instructing and working with our guests, teaching them and sharing this place with them for pretty much that whole time. Most recently, pretty much every day, talking to people about how to go out into the wilderness and safely not use their bear spray, hopefully. Anyway, I'm running for council. Oh, before I get to that, I just wanted to thank the Biosphere Institute, Gareth and Kendra, for putting this on, all of the sponsors and donors as well that are making it possible, so thank you for that. I'm running for council because I deeply care about Banff, our community, our wildlife, and our environment. I believe that the best way to tackle environmental challenges is through practical, realistic solutions that can actually be implemented effectively. As a councillor, I'll bring a unique mix of leadership, communication, critical thinking, and approachability to the table. I make decisions based on evidence, weighing all sides of an issue, but I will also help people understand why those decisions are being made. I think communication is a really big part of that. I want residents, seasonal workers, and stakeholders to all feel that they can approach me, share their ideas, and be part of shaping our community. To me, council is about problem solving together, whether it's educating our visitors, reducing emissions, supporting local programs and initiatives. And I focus on solutions that are achievable, measurable, and have a real impact. I want Banff to be a place where people, wildlife, and the environment can thrive together, not just in theory, but in practice. I look forward to working with the community to find solutions that truly make a difference, and I hope on October 20th you check Mark. That worked a lot better last time, but either way, you know, it can work either way. So, thank you. With a K, with a K, with a K.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks to my mother, my formal name is Leslie. Those who have learned to put up with me over the last 50 years I've been in town know me as Les. Again, thanks to Gareth and his crew for putting this on, and thank you for everybody who's turned out in person and who are watching us on camera. How do you define an environmentalist? Do I enjoy the environment that the Rocky Mountains, the Bow Valley, and Banff National Park provide for us? Yes. I enjoy getting out, having a walk, having a hike, taking photographs. Sorry. No, I'm sorry. Am I concerned about the possible overuse and overvisitation to the Bow Valley, Banff National Park, and the Rocky Mountains? Yes. I think there is going to come a point where we have to establish a limit to those places or those parts. And do I have answers to all of this? No, I do not. I've worked here for many years, several different opportunities, and I've gotten to know a lot of the people here. If I do become a councillor, which I hope you will, my approach will be that I am not an environmentalist, but I wish to learn, and I hope to bring a different point of view to everything. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say, if you're like me, not only did you just learn a lot about these folks, but I'm inspired by the passion and dedication to Banff that I hear. Could you just join me in saying thanks for coming out and your 2 minutes? Okay, we'll move on to questions from the hat. So here's how these questions came to be. Starting a few months ago, I had the privilege of working with some really dedicated and thoughtful folks from a number of groups. And together we came up not only with tonight's format, but also we workshopped a list of questions. Then we put those questions online for candidates and community members alike to review before this evening. So those questions have been online for several weeks now, and invited the following groups to contribute to those questions. Bow Valley Climate Action, Bow Valley Naturalists, Bow Valley Clean Air Society, Bow Valley Engage is a bit of a theme emerging. Bow Valley Food Alliance, also some national groups, Canadian Climate Institute, Yellowstone to Yukon Conservation Initiative, Environmental Defense. So we've had some good brains on this important question of what questions to ask. So if you want to see those questions, and if you currently have data on your phone, you can just Google Banff Environment Forum, and it'll come up. It should come up as the first link. And then you'll see that list of questions. So there are more questions online than we have candidates, so we've gone through them to select one question per candidate. So 13 candidates, 13 questions in the hat. So here's the plan. So my colleague Kendra candidates will offer you the hat starting again, your left to right. And when you so you'll reach into the hat. You're not going to look into the hat, you're going to reach into the hat. Then you're going to grab a single sheet of paper. Then you're going to unfold that paper. You're going to read the question aloud, clearly and slowly, please, so that everyone knows what you're going to be talking about when you answer the question. That just makes good sense, doesn't it? So I will remind the audience that candidates have had several weeks to think about the answers to those questions. And candidates, I will ask that you do your best, please, to give a direct answer to the question. And please be very succinct in your response. We're not going to do the infernal timer running thing. We're going to... So that's good news for you. But I do reserve the right to jump in if you're starting to repeat yourself, or if it's become obvious to me anyway that you've answered the question to the best of your ability, and then we'll just move on. Because in matters of this kind, time is not your friend. Mr. Pettigrew. Yeah, please.
How much time do we have to answer the question?
So nominally a minute. And thanks for that, Hugh. But there's no timer. I'll just so relax, take your time, don't repeat yourself, and I'll be with much love, I will and with much respect, but I will, with some firmness, I will jump in and say, okay, thank you for your response. So let's get the party started here. So ladies and gentlemen, the first hat question. Okay, grab the mic, read the question clearly and slowly, please, Michelle, and then give us your answer to that question.
Just want to make sure I get this clear. The town currently offers some incentive programs to support environmental incentives. What other programs and incentives would you support to help residents switch to low carbon technologies and reduce their energy bills? Whew. Okay.
Let's just do something
Yeah.
here. How about we just have everyone stand up when they answer the question? That way,
Oh, okay.
at the back you can see. Let's just make that our convention, and thanks to whoever took that on. Thanks.
Is that what you meant? Sorry, stand up myself. Okay, so just being clear on what we're going with here. Okay, so the town of Banff does currently offer a lot of really amazing incentives, I have to say that. And some incentives that would support and help residents to switch to lower carbon technologies. First, I think some of these things cost a bit of money. And so it's really wise for us to, as a collective, as a community, and a town, to help our residents and visitors, but mostly residents, out with some of these financial barriers to have lower retrofits, maybe it's heat pumps. There's a lot of different opportunities there, but financing, I think, would be the hardest thing, because when you ask folks to make that switch, sometimes that first barrier, affordability, is a front of mind. So I think financing, accessing grants, there's many different levels of grants and governments that get involved, and buyback programs. I think when we look at electricity, that's another option. So whether they're e-bikes or buses, or other modes of transportation, and just switching over to electric over other higher emissions and carbon. The other one I'd mention is, and I'm a big fan of this one, our waste and circular economy. We're, like mentioned by some other folks here, we do a lot of consumption. And if we just had a bit of a pause moment before we are just picking things up and thought about the waste that may be associated and say no, there's a couple R's, refuse could be the first one. And so if we can create some thoughts about policies and bylaws to refuse a bit of the waste that comes with our consumption and start to think about things like our circular economy. We have a great program underneath us, as well as if you visit the compound, we've got reuse it centers, we've got library of things, and I think enhancing some of those, so really focusing on those circular economy principles, and they are loose principles, but it can be applied to many different departments, which can then incentivize other programs. And so I think lastly, the big one, and this is why I'm at the table today, is advocating. We have such an opportunity to unite ourselves as a voice of Banff, and then maybe even extend that to Bow Valley and region-wise, and advocate for provincial and federal movements to reduce our waste, to adopt circular economy principles, to really look at alternative models of energy, and yeah, maybe doing some of these financial pieces would help the ease. So I did do a little repeating, but just so everyone knew what I was saying. Yeah, I think those are just some of the areas, but I think we can also look around the globe and nationally. There's a lot of really cool examples happening in rural communities and big cities.
I'll get you to conclude. Thank you. Yeah.
So there we go. Those would be my biggest focuses. And yeah, circular economy.
Sure, thanks. So let's just talk about process here. That was longer than a minute, and Mr. Pettigrew, but I sort of allowed it because Michelle stayed more or less on. The question was about incentives, and you drifted a bit to policy. It's not fine, but I let you do it. But I'll be a little bit. I'm just learning. I'm learning too. So please answer the question. And yes. Yeah, runway. They will, less and less as they go down the line. It says somebody with a last name of B, honestly. Okay, thanks. Please stand, read the question nice and slowly, and your succinct answer. Thank you.
Food costs are rising in the Bow Valley. What would you do to support local food production, community gardens, greenhouses, farmers markets, etc., and consumers' access to affordable, healthy food? That's an awesome question. And it's really, to me, a tough one as a municipality. How do we actually deal with a lot of these things? Because it kind of falls outside of the purview of what municipal government can also do, can easily do, but that doesn't mean there's nothing we can do, right? We have a lot of initiatives in town that as a community we can support. Food rescue as the first one that easily comes to mind, right? How do we make sure that they're able to do their thing so that folks can find stuff? The library also deals with reuse of food and food from food rescue, trying to get it to different people. So how do we make sure that we're supporting the other community groups that are doing that? I think it is awesome that we have some greenhouses. I think it is awesome that we encourage folks to grow their own food. And that isn't necessarily an affordable way to get great food. It takes a lot of time to work in a greenhouse. It's not my thing either, so even though I love eating food when somebody does that, it's not necessarily for everybody, so there's got to be more than just the greenhouses. I think there's different initiatives we need to look at as a municipality, but it's more about how we support folks rather than what we do ourselves, because it's a little bit outside our lane.
Thank you. Next question.
The question is, which elements of Banff's renewable energy transition roadmap will you prioritize in the next 4 years, and which greenhouse gas emission targets will you commit to? First of all, I think it's really important to mention that is a tremendous document. Our environmental master plans and the environmental, the renewable energy transition roadmap, make sure I get it correct, is absolutely a fantastic document, and it really spells out what exactly our goals are as a community as it relates to our transition, but also very specifically it talks about tactics and how we
Hey, Grant, just keep that mic nice and close to your mouth.
Sorry, is that better? The plan actually calls very specifically to lower greenhouse gas emissions by 80% from the 2005 levels to the 2050 levels, and it actually maps out very specific targets to get there. And I think previous councils, certainly the ones I've been on, have been very active in trying to do that, you know. And the reality is, though, and I think this is really important because this is a theme that I saw in a lot of the questions, to accomplish the goals in our energy transition roadmap is actually very robust, but they're also quite expensive. And I think it's really important as we go through that document that we prioritize the ones, because our reality is we can't do all of them all at the same time. And that's just something that is, for me, that's really, really important to keep in mind, because I think there is a desire to want to do all things right away and get to our goals as fast as we can, and unfortunately that's just not that realistic. But with that said, to answer the question specifically of all what's in there, I certainly feel the low carbon transit fleet is something that Rome Transit has been working on for a number of years. We continue to work on, and it certainly is something that I have supported in the past and I will continue to support as it relates to our transit fleet.
Thank you. Next question. Feel free to applaud anytime you people want. Just fill your boots. Absolutely. And Ted, when you start, I'll just a coaching thing, just as with Grant, just keep that mic nice and close. Keep that mic nice and close to your mouth when you talk.
I will. Thanks.
Thank you.
What is the tallest mountain in Banff Park? Thank you very much for that question. Mount Robson, or Mount, pardon me, that's Jasper, Mount Assiniboine. Question number 2, how will you ensure that Banff addresses affordability concerns without compromising environmental and conservation goals? I can't assure that. I can tell you right now, I cannot assure that affordability will, as it's viewed now, will not be compromised. We have to think about why we're here, and is it because we want more? We have to think about the comfortable community we're creating, and yes, it has to be affordable, but when it comes to compromising the environment and the conservation of the area, something has to give. So does affordability mean that we need more, or do we need better, or do we need to redefine what our affordability goal is, what our comfort range is? And that's what I think we need to do. Thank you.
question. What steps would you take to create a comprehensive regional transportation plan that connects Calgary and Banff, that reduces congestion, addresses the climate emergency, and respects ecological social limits? In a minute, bro. Are you serious? All right. Okay. Friends, I'm not going to trade in illusions here. I'm not qualified as a professional environmentalist to begin to answer this directly. I appreciate the comprehensive nature of the questions that you sent over. I think that's excellent. But I think what we're talking about today, about caring for the environment, and we're all up here in this panel, I think what we're looking at is quality of leadership. And you're looking at what do we care about. And what I tell you is that I care deeply about the environment. These are core convictions. They are spiritual convictions. I devote my life to my convictions. So as a leader and walking into a room, we have a question like this or a series of questions. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I just know how to answer that. Rather, I'm going to depend on the community. I'm going to depend on professionals, people who know what they're talking about, listen, have information, be an informed individual to then hopefully have a credible, with a team, have a credible solution. But I think whatever we need to do to make our lives work and also respect and value the environment, I think we have to have cast a vision that the community can buy into. Because if we want to attain a great good of living good lives, but also fighting for the environment, then we're probably going to have to bracket or trade some goods that we value for a greater good. And that means regular communication with the community. That means really listening to professionals and the community, and together we have a solution. And then we move to achieve that, right? It's not about, if you want someone to answer this comprehensively, then get a laptop, put up Gemini, feed it all the documents, and you'll have some informed thing on this panel. But it's not ultimately about information, it's about leadership and having the persistence over time, because these plans have to be done over time to persistently fight to make this happen. And I've proven that with proven leadership in this town in my life, and I'm devoted to that. And that's why I feel confident and competent that I could be in that room and fight for the environment.
Don't you love watching the expression on their face when they get the question? You know, the eyebrows. Go ahead.
I was really hoping for the dog leash question. Yeah. The Bow Valley is known for its work on wildlife coexistence, but population growth and increased visitation threatens this balance. What steps will you take to ensure residents and visitors continue to safely coexist with wildlife? Well, look, I think that the Wildlife in the Community Plan outlines some really good vision, and I'd really like to push that forward with the community. I think a lot of that really involves, or where I see where we can make inroads, and that is through education, and that comes from collaboration with parks and the wider environmental community, and just really trying to make sure that the visitors and the residents understand that we have to coexist with the wildlife in this community, and it can be challenging. I don't know what else I would push forward in that particular issue. So
you should quit while you're ahead now.
I'll quit while I'm ahead. Thank you.
That's a hard no. But thanks for asking. Please use the microphone. Thank you.
Wildfires, question number, 8, I believe.
Just read the question, thanks.
I can't read it. No, it's 11. We can only manage what we measure. The town of Banff currently measures the greenhouse gases. That is the question.
The question's coming at you. Go ahead.
Well, same thing. The town of Banff currently measures its greenhouse gas emissions and has a plan to reduce those emissions. Would you support extending this requirement to business to measure and report their energy use and greenhouse gas emissions and help them reduce those emissions? How would you go about this?
And Mark, just get nice and comfortable with that mic, nice and close to your mouth. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
was hoping I wouldn't get this one. Probably because you might not like the answer. No, I don't think so. I think business has enough restrictions to deal with right now to run their businesses in Banff for a variety of reasons. So if we do go down that road, perhaps some incentives, but I'm really not sure what that would be.
Thank you.
Banff's physical and commercial development footprint are legally capped, but visitation pressures continue to rise. What steps would you take to manage these pressures without exceeding environmental limits, creating substandard housing, or shifting the burden onto Canmore? Our physical footprint is set by an act of Parliament. Our commercial development possibilities of increase are set, and all that square footage has been allocated. There's a little bit more to build. So we as a town, we won't be building and encroaching into wildlife corridors, and we won't be continuing to increase our commercial development, but we will see increased visitation. We know Calgary's population continues to grow, and many of those people want to come to the Banff National Park. They also want to go to Kananaskis, and we're seeing the impacts of so many people seeking to enjoy the area that we live in. So how can we manage these pressures without exceeding environmental limits, creating substandard housing, or shifting the burden onto Canmore? Well, I'll start with shifting the burden, because that happens to us too. Like, a decision that we make can shift development needs onto Canmore. And in fact, the prediction is that most of the hotels will be outside of the town of Banff within the next few years. But we also get impacted by decisions that happen outside our community. You know, there was discussions about expansion at Sunshine Village without a lot of housing accompanying that. Well, all of that need would fall on the town of Banff, providing housing for someone who's not directly contributing to our economy. So we do, it's a domino effect. When something happens in one of our Bow Valley communities, it affects the other communities. So exceeding environmental limits, well, that's pretty hard. We can't control the number of visitors to our town site according to the Municipal Government Act and transportation requirements that we fall under in the province. So we can't tell people, we can't stop people from coming to our community. We can encourage them to come at less busy times. We can try to spread our visitation out over the year instead of just the summertime, to move into our shoulder seasons and our winter seasons. I know that's a goal of Banff Lake Louise Tourism, but we know that people still continue to increase the visitation numbers in the summertime. And so then we have to go to education. And people get education as they come through the park's gates. And we have some signage around education. I saw a sign the other day, and I used it in my speech tonight because it talked about being a steward. And as you read it, it invited you to embrace some principles that would help us be stewards of our national park and our town site and our environmental limits. And I think that's one way we can work with our visitors to help them realize the impact that they're having on the community and to minimize that. And be respectful while they're doing that, because it's a goal that they want to achieve. I think it's one of the reasons they visit us. And it's a goal all of us have to embrace as residents also, because we're all part of the solution, and we need to model the behavior that we want our visitors to have also.
Hi. Sometimes there is a gap between the good environmental work that the municipality undertakes and what the community knows about that work. What would you do to close that gap? So I think this is a great question because I think it reflects our reality. So thank you, Gareth, or whichever group that you consulted with to come up with this. Communication. Hello. It's really about communicating, whether it is town administration, communicating to the public through their channels, their Facebook page, their weekly newsletters. By the way, if you haven't signed up for Town of Banff newsletters, please do. You can learn so much about what is going on with those newsletters. Also, I would like to say it's up to councillors to communicate these initiatives and these projects and the plans that are in place. And one way that I do that is I started this newsletter about 1.5 years ago when I was injured and not able to do anything. So I decided to start this little newsletter to email out to residents a few days before the next council meeting, just to let you know what's coming up in council chambers and also any other juicy tidbits that might be of interest to you. So, you know, I think it's really incumbent on the town to communicate out. It's incumbent on councillors to communicate out, but it's also really important for all of our community to reach out and to join those email lists and to follow Facebook and to follow Instagram. There are efforts to communicate. It's really helpful if it's a two-way communication. And that way, you know, there's also feedback, which is really helpful because that helps us listen, which helps us make good decisions for you. Thank you.
No, don't be afraid.
No, you're right, Hugh. You should be afraid. He's like, I'm afraid. Kendra's saying, don't be afraid. We'll see if you should be afraid or not. Go ahead, Hugh. Thanks for reading the question clearly and slowly.
Well, first of all, thanks again for putting this up. And I wish I would be able to answer all the questions today. So I may post my questions, answers on my website or my Facebook page, whatever, in the next few days. So I will read the question, which is, how will you ensure the town of Banff achieves the goals and targets of the Environmental Master Plan, particularly the ecosystem section, and how would you accelerate progress on these goals? I think the issue here is to tie, yes is the answer, yes to tie the AMP targets to budgets, fund restoration from our visitor revenues, and publish a dashboard and a fast-track quick win like habitat and like lighting fixes. So it's about communication, and it's about our team bringing up the plans, and us council has to agree to those plans or modify them depending on what we can afford. But I'm supportive of all the programs that are coming our way, but sometimes we have to prioritize. We heard that. We have a very, very large budget. We have a revenue of over $81 million this year, and we're still finding problems having to fund things that we want. But the important thing is we have a master plan. We should follow it, and it's guiding us to the next 10 or 20 years. Thank you.
Read the question, read the question, read the question. 27. There is a proposal for a new passenger train that would connect Calgary, Canmore, and Banff. Would you support the creation of this train? Why or why not? Sorry, I should stand up. I'm going to keep this really short and sweet. This project ultimately isn't fully ours to decide, to deny or to accept. There are multi-jurisdictions that are involved in this. There is the provincial government, there's the federal government. Banff, as we know, is just one of the municipalities involved in this, as per what the question says. So would I support it? The creation, ultimately, that is beyond what the municipality has in our control. And so yeah, thanks.
Sorry, I think many of us actually created responses to all 28 of the questions, which was a lot of work, and I enjoyed doing it. I loved getting into these issues, and oh yeah, read the question. But yeah, like you said, I'll be posting all these because I didn't do all this for nothing. So, my question is, what changes would you make to Banff's bylaws, policies, and practices to strengthen the town's role in ecosystem protection and restoration? I think we already have a lot of the bylaws in place that we need that deal with the things the bylaw can actually deal with. There's always room to strengthen protection through proactive education and enforcement. I was a big fan of, a couple years ago, there were those yellow posters that had like hot dog, what was it? No, fast food. I don't know. It was the wiener dog with the mustard on it and the bun. And there was one with the phone and the charging elk. Those, like, they attracted attention. They were a little bit like shocking that some of them were that in your face, but they were really effective. I haven't seen many of them since then, but I would love to look at a program like that again. Because it's just it's a great reminder for the people that should know better, and it's a great way to sort of show off very bluntly like what is kind of acceptable behavior or not for the people that are visitors that might not know, right? They're very eye-catching and effective, I thought. We've all seen what downtown can look like after a busy night on a weekend. A lot of people out, weather's been nice, everybody's gone to those late night food establishments and tried to shove their food into what space they can find in the garbage bins and unsuccessfully do so. Pours all over the floor. I mean, definitely looking at expanding those services, more garbage removal in those times. Having bylaw on later at those periods as well to help provide some education and maybe enforcement. Enforcement would be great too. I'm a big fan of like strong enforcement, but with a soft side of, you want to make sure that they know what the punishment is and they're going to be charged the punishment, but okay, it's their first offense, so everybody makes a mistake. Yeah, I think by combining enforcement with continued public education, we can reduce the human impacts on sensitive areas and protect wildlife and maintain the natural beauty that makes Banff so special.
Candidate Standish may be happy he's not here because there are 2 questions left, and I don't know which one he would have ended up with. So,
Let's just choose the easy question. That's not so hard.
I didn't have a chance to take a look at the other one.
There is that.
Okay, this is one that I would be happy to answer anyway. It's number 8. Wildfire is a major risk in the Bow Valley. What steps will you take to protect Banff's residents, visitors, and infrastructure? What would you do to accelerate fire-smart practices around homes and businesses? I know there are several of my neighbors here tonight that live with me up in Valley View condominium property. We have been very active in that fire-smart program for 5 years. The town of Banff this past May officially accepted the fact that we as a town area are considered a high-risk fire area. The problem will be to convince everybody that this is the actual situation we face. Fire Smart Canada best recommended practices go a long way to showing people how they can fire smart their properties to make things much less susceptible to a fire coming up the valley. I think that was shown in Fort McMurray several years ago. 2 houses side by side, same basic houses. 2 of them had pine trees beside their front porch. The other house did not. You can guess which house went up in fire. And again in Jasper last year, some of the fire smarting procedures that were taken, I think, saved some of the properties there. And I think it's just a matter of education, getting everybody on track to fire smart as much as possible their own particular properties. And this is something that I would definitely push as a councillor. Thank you.
So look, on behalf of the Biosphere Institute and all the folks who put those questions together, thank you very much for taking the time to look at those 28 questions online, or whatever the number was. We recognize that there was work involved. Mark saying, yeah, you're darn tootin' there was work involved. And, but, you know, this is work, and it's good work. It's important work, and thanks for taking that on. So a big hand for these great questions. And I'll say, too, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you enjoyed that, you're going to love this next section, because the next part is time for questions from the floor. You'll note that thanks to young Miss Buckingham, we have 2 microphones that are, I think they're both live, and the early adopters in the room are clearly on it like a dog on a bone. Look at that. Wow. That was amazing. So impressive. So here's the criteria. Here's what I'm asking everyone to do as you consider the questions and the question that you're going to ask. So first of all, I'll remind you, this is an environmental forum. Your question, please make your question about the environment some element. I'll also note that just behind David, you'll see a camera, and so the camera is currently looking at the room. And so it doesn't focus in on the speakers or anything like that. If you're nervous about any part of that, the invitation would be to kind of hang out at the edge or at the back, and then your face won't be quite as broadcast as it would be otherwise. So when you do your question, the question needs to be a question, not a speech. And you know what I'm talking about here. You've all heard those so-called questions. So a one-sentence preamble is barely okay, but just get to the question, and then also please state your name. Out of respect for these folks who are about to answer your question. I would also ask that you say to whom the question is directed, and that's a maximum of no more than 3 candidates. So be specific there. And that way we just get through more questions from the audience in the time that we have available. I'll remind you all that the town has a wonderful website with contact information for all these candidates. So if you don't get to your question tonight, you can always follow up with them if you don't get a chance to ask your good question later on, including, of course, after 9 o'clock when the formal part of the program ends. So please go ahead, come up with an awesome question for no more than 3 of your fine folk. Give us your name, give us the question nice and clearly, and who the question is directed to. And the early adopter over here in the green, I'm going to invite you to go first. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Lori Hardingham. I've lived in Banff since '67. My question is that we have some bylaws that are very good, but they're aspirational, I have been told by various people who are on council and administration. So it's about garbage, and one particular kind of garbage, and Mark, I'd like you to answer it partially. It's cigarette butts. This summer, I started a walking program, and I started by walking along the river. And everywhere you go, there are benches, there are rocks that people sit on, and everywhere are cigarette butts.
Lori, I love the energy. Can I invite you to get to the question?
Okay, the question is, given that some cities find that 39% of their waste that they take out are cigarette butts, if you look that up in various cities in North America, what are you going to do about enforcing our wonderful bylaw about no smoking on pathways, sidewalks, recreation areas?
And that's a question for just Mark?
Mark and Seth and Grant.
Okay, take it away, Mark. And we'll get Mark's.
Yeah, I got the bylaw question, so that's appropriate. Enforcement, I mean, there should be people out giving out tickets for not obeying the smoking bylaw. Like, we have a bylaw on the books. I don't believe that a law should be aspirational, right? If it's a bylaw, there should be enforcement. We're never going to catch 100% of the people that are breaking that law or, you know, throwing their butts on the ground, because you would need an army of bylaw. But more enforcement and maybe putting the statistics out there of how many people have been fined, how many tickets have been issued. I've seen communities that give out containers that people can stick their butts in. I'm not a smoker, I've never have been. I don't get it. And it enrages me to no end when you see somebody, you know, driving up the road in front of you and they flick the little red thing out the window. I've had to repress my own rage and make sure I didn't get involved in any kind of road rage incident when I see that happening for multiple reasons, the wildfire reason being another one. Yeah, I mean, we can give people the tools to not litter, but if it's a law in the books, let's enforce it.
Thanks. And candidates, two things. One is candidates. Thanks, Mark. Please keep your answers succinct. And then we have 40+ online viewers, and just a reminder to those folks that you can submit questions in the comments section of the YouTube. So you can submit your questions, and then we have a process that we'll grab your question and kick it into play. We had 2 more respondents, Seth and thanks, Grant. Go ahead, Seth.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Go for it.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with Mark with a K. That if you have a bylaw or any law, there's not much point if you don't enforce it. But there's also some unintended consequences of that bylaw, and that's there's concentrations around the benches. And one of the questions that was on this list here, and I wish I'd gotten that question, but was about dog waste. Well, Banff's done a really good job with dog bags everywhere, so there's not dog waste in town, not much anyway, as opposed to Jasper where there's quite a bit, and no dog bags. So, you know, do we just cave and just put ashtrays around those benches, or do we enforce the bylaw? So, you know, we have to make a decision.
Thank you very much.
And we know where the smokers are. It's pretty easy to figure out where they all congregate.
Okay, people, let's keep the rock rolling. Next respondent, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, there's much to agree with what's been shared. Generally, if you have a bylaw that should be enforced, I think we can agree on that. I also think that there's a time to be a stick, there's time to be a carrot. You know what I'm saying? And so I think what it could be a possible solution, because what we're caring about, hopefully we're caring about not having cigarette butts and having garbage more than punitive measures of punishing someone because they did something I didn't like. So I think it's an attitude question as well. So I think we could, as a town, as a community, create incentives or programs where there's so many like little community hubs in town that empower them to do cleanup. I mean, if we care about this, and this is a big problem, as you're saying, which I can trust you on that, then yes, there's a stick part, you break the rule, you're going to get that, but also empower the community to fight for this, to keep cleanup. I mean, this is our home, right? And I think that's also a very credible way forward.
Okay, let's move on. I think we've mastered the cigarette butt issue at this time. Nice work, everyone. Please, your name, question.
Perfect. Okay. Hello, my name's Kamiko, and my question is going to be, I think I want to try to get to know Michelle, Alan, and David a bit better. Okay, so the town of Banff and the library have partnered on initiatives such as the Library of Things and Zero Waste workshops. What opportunities do you see to expand these partnerships to meet community needs and sustainability goals?
Love this. Food. So growing food, cooking food, preserving food, that's my jam. And I know, sorry, no pun intended. But yeah, as someone who didn't have those skills passed on to me that were a necessity, that were a way of life, and then there was this boom of working any class and every class, and now we're working a lot, so that affordability piece is really missing. And I think there's some other amazing programs that happen in this room, but anywhere in between, of intergenerational programs. So this is a way of capturing knowledge sharing, some of those preservation and cooking techniques, but maybe also childcare and some other social supports like, I don't know if you guys know, but Snuggles is something that happens. And that's social well-being. And so when you start to build both of those connections of intergenerational, multicultural, and you really lean on your resource center, who's open a lot of hours out of our 7 days a week, and you look at our municipality and say, you're being leaders in community and inclusion and belonging, how do we bridge those? So many things, but I would say food, because that's a learning mechanism for so many different skills that are essential for many different ages, but also just the affordability piece. And then that could really boost the items needed in the Library of Things. That could really speak to maybe the Reuse It Center turning into some sort of like shed where you can fix things and tinker. But my thought goes to the kitchen, and that's a space that most of our housing units have. And then I would start to think of those spaces that don't maybe exist in all of our housing. Garages and basements even. I don't know if you guys know about the basement in town here, but that after-school program is amazing. So it's really providing those opportunities of maybe what we or other generations have experienced in households and communities, but really make that part of the breath of life here. Really make that part of what we do. And I think...
Thanks, Michelle. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks, Kimiko. I love this question too. I am a huge fan of the Library of Things because it means that I don't need to own this stuff. I don't need to store this stuff. I can just go to the library and get a saw when I need one. Because you know how often I need one? Me, never. But Ali uses one occasionally. But it's awesome to have those things. And I think it is one of the coolest initiatives. And I love how the town partnered with the library. Didn't try to do it all ourselves. We're like, okay, what's the best space to do that? How can we find partners in community that can help us carry out some of these goals we have? And so the Library of Things, I would love to see it grow. I would love to see more workshops. You mentioned some of those, I think, and spaces. I mean, space is a thing in Banff for sure. But kind of like Michelle said, where do we find space that we could actually have people use some of these things? So I have, you know, as our household, we have gone to the library and tried to use a saw that we needed 2 cuts for, but you got to take it home and then bring it back. Like, it would be awesome to be able to have space at the library to even use some of these things. So I would love to see the library space improved, expanded, so that the Library of Things can be a better use for our community, because that helps. Not only do we not need stuff then, but it also helps the affordability to give access to folks as well. And when you're coming from where we all come from, you're not bringing your power tools with you. Or a lot of your bigger, small appliances, whatever. You know what I mean, right? And so to have those available for people is fantastic, and I can't wait to see that improved.
Hello? Oh, I think it was a good question. I'm going to sound probably a little repetitive here, but first off, I'd like to say I love our community library. It's one of my daughter's favorite spaces in town. And I didn't even know the Library of Things existed until I literally stumbled in there one day, and I was like blown away. I thought, this is an amazing initiative. And same around that piece of like, I'd like to see it expanded and have some space that the community can actually use those tools in, because I was out door knocking the other night and I was talking to some residents, and they brought up a really interesting point of, I'm segueing here a little, sorry, I'm going a little off topic on the question, but you know, on the affordability housing and our critical housing shortage piece, like a lot of us in the community, I live up in Middle Springs, which, you know, that area was really built and designated for families. And I have a family, that's why I moved up there, but I'm at a point now where my daughter's moving away out of the community, and do I really need that space anymore? You know, I feel like I should almost be considering moving on the sole basis of making that space available for somebody who could utilize it better. But where do I move? And that was the question they posed to me, because I'm a garage guy. And that was the first thought in my head is, I'll move into a condo in this town, I guess, but what am I going to do with how am I going to use my power tools? But I think that would be amazing to see that space available to use those pieces. So, and I think the other part of your question, I'm sorry, was, because I kind of got sidetracked there. But anyways, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I know this audience, I know you have some questions, and you're probably not shy either, so I'm not sure why you're not currently standing in a microphone, but this is a much shorter meeting unless you ask a question right now. Who's got a question? Come on now, going once. Get in there. You can't nominate somebody else to ask a question. Although, use the microphone. You know, I think I've been proven wrong. You got nominated, and here you are. So crazy. Go ahead. Andre, is it?
Yes. My name's Andre. I live up in Valley View, too. But looking through different stats, and mine will have a bit of preamble so I can get to the question. I saw visitation stats for Banff in the mid-90s, 95 to 2000, that showed 4.5 million visitors. And so we talk about lots of people being here now, but there was lots of people back then. So what initiatives can we take to create better sustainable tourism arrivals, or how can we make it better for our community so that we could maybe tackle congestion?
And your question is directed at who, Andre?
I'd like to direct that to those who've been here the longest. So Mr. Ledwidge, Hugh, and Chip.
Mr. Ledwidge, go ahead.
Who's going to do this? What was the question again? No, the arrivals thing.
Well, the best way to get people to our community,
Yeah.
visitors, like we seem to have a lot of cars.
We do. And I know you're alluding to the train concept to some degree, I'm assuming. And
I'd like to know, like if you were here in those years, there was a lot of people here back then.
yes.
So how did they arrive? Like, what was different?
Not a lot. You know, on the train thing, I was looking into it today, actually. So the Via Rail died in 1990 for economic reasons, a variety of them. Not that many people were coming by train. Most people were coming by cars, and have since the very beginning almost. So what's different and what can be done that's different? I think if you provide incentives for people not to drive into town, or rules for not driving into town, or a permit system of some kind, then you know, that's something that we can try. We still end up with the issue of intercept. You know, where do those people go? As you know, on your property, you have some intercept parking. I don't have all the solutions, but my personal feeling on the train, any concept of a train, or a high-speed train, because that's what I think we've been discussing, I don't think that's going to reduce the amount of cars coming here. I think the big thing that's changed since 1990 or 95, or what it is, the size of the city of Calgary. You know, since I've been here, the city of Calgary has grown 4 times over. So, and that's going to continue. It's the fastest growing city in Canada right now, I think. And so the only way we're going to manage that is to manage the vehicles coming into town. So it's whether some kind of public transportation system. You know, yes, the Rome is a big success, but it can't handle everything.
Thanks, Mark. Let's go to Hugh.
Not sure if I answered your question. But.
Andre, there was a lot of people back then, but there's a lot more vehicles than back then right now. And like, people may have been there, but I think we were at 6.7 million vehicles that came into Banff in 2024. So I don't know how we fix that overnight, but things like Flixbus and On It, like are all tools that are using buses. I think buses are already built. I think more buses are needed, but how do we get the Calgary region to buy in on it? Because it's true. We're going to see a doubling of the Calgary region from 1.6 million to 3.5 by 2050. That's the prediction, and they're on track. Actually, they're ahead of track. So that communication, that piece needs to start in Calgary. We need to find places for them to park and take another way to get in here, no doubt. Perhaps we need to talk, if we can't build any or have access to extra parking or I was going to say perimeter parking, the word is escaping me. Intercept parking lot, thank you very much. So do we need an intercept parking lot? Yes. Where do we put it? Well, we don't seem to have the authority to go beyond our town boundaries. We certainly would like to see some advance there. Perhaps the Stoney Nation has offered to do some parking and transition there. Maybe we should try that first. I also think we should look at places like west of here that may be traveling from the other direction where maybe they can park there and take a bus from there. Whether it's that far, I don't know. But we should start communicating with our neighbors to transition that and have an access for them to take a different way of transportation in Banff. So that would be my way, Andre.
Thanks, Hugh. Let's go to Chip.
Thank you for the question. So how do we tackle congestion? Well, we know it's very intense in the summertime, and we know that's our highest season of visitation. So we want to reduce the vehicles that come to our town, and the answer to a large extent is mass transit. We need to offer alternatives to bringing a personal vehicle to the community. So there's talk of a train. You know, when would that be realistic? Is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? In the immediate short term, it's bus transit. And we are seeing more options coming from Calgary with the system the town runs with On It, but there's a number of other systems now that are offering people ways to get to our community. Some of them are demand pricing, you know, where the closer to the time you want to use the bus happens, the price costs more than if you planned in advance. I know Banff Lake Louise Tourism is really encouraging people who do come to plan ahead, to decide how you're going to get around the community. I know a number of the hotels, many of the hotels are in partnership with Rome Transit, and they say, if you drive here, leave your car with us and take transit. And I think the short-term improvements that we can see in congestion is with transit, and it's with continuing to discourage vehicle use. And there was someone who spoke at council a couple of weeks ago, and they suggested that a sign goes up on the highway that says, "Town is full, please visit another time." Well, there's a pretty low-cost idea, you know, and we've seen some success with the town yellow signs that go up in the middle of the boulevards on Banff Avenue that says, you know, no parking left up at the gondola or the upper harbor pools, park and take transit. You know, we know that the parking that we built or that we are using in partnership with Lyricon at the train station has very high usage, and the parking within town has high usage also. Is another intercept lot a short-term solution? Yes, it could be, but I believe that vehicles will exceed the capacity of any intercept lot that we could build, and that we need to get people an alternative way to get here.
Thanks, sir. Go ahead. Your name, your question, and to who it's directed, please.
Thank you, Gareth. Karen Thomas, and I would, Chip mentioned Lyricon, and I think the elephant in the room is that proposal for the train station and the wildlife corridor that is going to be disrupted by that whole possibility of an event that happens there. It needs your undivided attention, whoever gets elected. I already know that a lot of people that were on council sort of perhaps encourage the proposal of Lyricon and the train station and that parking lot, which could never be big enough, etc.
So, Karen, thanks for the
So,
context.
yeah, so I would like to hear from the new people. I'd like to hear about wildlife corridor preservation within the town from Dave, Mark, and Mark Ledwidge, and Mark Walker. Why not?
Okay, and I'm going to try and paraphrase the question. There wasn't actually a question, Karen. Well, just like shout it out and I'll repeat it. Your question is? So what's your position on existing wildlife corridors and the role of the town in protecting? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll start with Mark. Mark with a K. Go for it.
Firstly, when we talk about this, I would firmly reinforce that I would in no way ever support expansion of the town outside the existing town boundary. There was one question in here somewhere that was like, oh, should we do that? No. It is the boundary it is. We need to exist within that boundary. There is a major wildlife corridor on the north side of the Fenlands, right? Very heavily trafficked. There's a secondary wildlife corridor on the south side where that ARP for the train station is planned. If I went there actually a week or two ago or whatever, and I rode my bike around there and scouted the area because I'd never really looked at what was there with my own eyes. I'd just seen what was in the ARP and what I've heard from other people. And going there, the parking lot for the Fenlands has a wildlife fence that kind of runs along one side and then cuts back up towards the Fenlands. So already it's not really, like half of that section's not working as a very good wildlife corridor, because if any wildlife wandered in, they'd be stuck in the parking lot and have to turn around. That little piece on the south side of the Fenlands is within the town of Banff boundary. I think that being firm on the fact that we're not going to expand outside of it, we should be using the pieces that are inside of it to the best ability that we can to resolve the problems that we're having. That being said, I don't think that improving that area is necessarily going to be bad for whatever wildlife corridor it currently acts as. There could potentially, I'm not an architect or an engineer, but I would love to see a design that redevelops that whole space through there to actually maybe enhance the wildlife corridor, to remove the existing fence potentially. Maybe there's things they can do with lighting or planting, or maybe some stretch of it's still grass. I don't know, but right now I know there's a fence, and on the other side of the fence there's a big pile of dirt, I think, and on the other side of the dirt there's another big pile of old, what just looks like train garbage. So all of that's in the ARP for redevelopment, and I can't see how it's a very good wildlife corridor as it is. I would like to see it improved as that plan moves forward. I think we can get both.
Let's go to Mark with a C. Thanks, Mark.
Understand the question. So, where the around the Fenlands. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, so I think we should do what we can to not compromise wildlife corridors. I'm not sure what else to say. If we build fences, it compromises a wildlife corridor. Parks Canada has been for decades dealing with that on a broader scale with the whole Bow Valley. And so if we start fragmenting all those corridors, they're no longer effective. I'm not a biologist, but it seems common sense to me.
Thanks, Mark. Let's go to Dave and for a short response.
Yeah, I would say, I probably repeat some of the comments they made. I think the wildlife corridors are very important to protect. I do think that one in the south end of town is maybe there is some opportunity there to improve it. And I think anytime we're looking at any project that might potentially impact those wildlife corridors, that should be actually one of our goals, is not just protecting it, but to see if we can improve it.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for the great question, Karen. Over to you.
Thank you. My name is Vamini Selvanandan, and much like the Biosphere Institute, I sent my election questions to all the candidates, so you've seen my questions. The question I'm going to ask out loud is one related to a car-free Banff. So many towns and cities across the world enjoy a triple win by having various regions of their municipalities as car-free, economic, health, and social benefits. So I will ask Michelle Backhouse, what kind of policies would you instruct administration to explore regarding a car-free Banff if you're elected for the next 4 years?
Thank you for that question. I'm very interested in exploring some of these options, and I just want to preface that I would prioritize different ability or accessibility and parents and have some priority parking for those who, accessibility-wise, might need it. So I just want to preface that. We come from different walks of life. But I also think that, yeah, we could explore what a car-free Banff looks like. As a tourist destination, there's other destinations who have done this. There's been thoughtful planning and analyzing how to flow traffic, movement, and people. So I think that's absolutely something I would entertain and be interested in, especially as we are moving to some of these bigger concerns. There's a higher emissions, and so if we're moving towards a bit more of an if we're moving towards an environmentally focused future, I think a car-free place to research and to see what that looks like here is something I am interested in. But I don't want to dismiss the needs of some people's everyday lives and what that might, look like in meeting those walks of life too. I think you also spoke to it being certain zones and areas. I think we're quite used to that with seasonal closures, rutting and berry season. So I think this place is used to some restrictions and closures. So yeah, I think I'd be interested in entertaining that for sure.
Thanks very much, Michelle. So with apologies, I'm going to actually invite us to move on and remind everyone here, including yourself, sorry about this, that these guys are going to hang around and you have a chance to ask questions and pursue the line of questioning with whoever. At this point, as promised, I'm going to invite Mayor Corey DeMano back up on the stage in just a second here. For one question from the organizers, and which she's going to, this is a question that has already been shared. I'll read it to you in a second, but the mayor's already seen this question. And the candidates, you'll love this part because you get to see Mayor Corey DeMano sit here and struggle with answering questions from anyone who asks a question after this question. So, and we'll try and do that all before 9 p.m. So here's a question that we invited the mayor to consider. Banff is famous for its wildlife, but mounting visitor numbers creates negative impacts for wild animals. How would you improve the integrity of wildlife corridors and reduce human-wildlife conflict in and around Banff, particularly given its national park setting? Corey.
Thank you, Gareth. So as we've heard tonight, the natural environment is our most treasured asset we have here, and that means making sure that we're also protecting the wildlife that call this place home as well. And so we have a multi-pronged approach to A, preserving our wildlife corridors, and B, doing our best to protect wildlife within the town site. So as it relates to the wildlife corridors, we, as you all remember, shrunk the town boundary in the 1990s and removed an area of Middle Springs that was earmarked for more housing expansion. And that was because that was a very important wildlife movement corridor. And so we are still trending down that same mindset today. It still guides us. So we are looking at the industrial compound and we're examining if we can do the same thing. So the town of Banff is looking to potentially shrink our public works yard space because we know that wildlife move through that area. So that is one way that we are looking to protect wildlife corridors. And I know this room is very passionate, as we heard earlier, in particular about the train station area redevelopment plan as it relates to the parking lot. So I thought I'd just touch on that briefly as well. The town of Banff is currently working on the strategic environmental assessment as it relates to the ARP. And that will soon be turned into Parks Canada. After that, there's a 60-day national consultation program with Canadians, so anyone in this room is able to participate. And then they'll go through their regulatory review. And we are fully committed to adopting any of the mitigations or measures or recommendations that arise from that process. And then as it relates to wildlife within the town site, we are so proud to stand by the recommendations of the wildlife coexistence human-wildlife coexistence study. And we have just made so much progress with that. So in particular, we have been able to remove most of our apple trees in town, and we have completely removed fruit-bearing trees from our allowable species list. So on a go-forward basis, they can't be planted. And I know that that was a really hard change for residents. We all love trees. It's very hard to see trees come down. But we know that this protects bears, and we know that this also keeps residents safe. So it's very important. I'm very proud that we've made such progress on that. As well, we heard earlier tonight around some of the signage. So we have also been able to make strides in really communicating the type of behavior that we want to see around wildlife. And we've also changed our construction waste practices and things of that nature. So we take it very seriously. And in the Banff Community Plan, we have a section that speaks to working on both of these issues as well. So we're not done. We're ready to take it all to the next level.
Okay. Questions for the mayor? There's a microphone. Come and use it. Sorry, not you. I'm just joking. Go ahead. State your name and the question nice and clearly. Thanks.
Hello. Hi, my name is Jeffrey Carpenter. I guess this question is for Mayor Domano. It could be for anyone, but with over 4 million visitors a year, each with their own carbon footprint, directly impacting our town and the national park's fragile ecosystem, what role do you see the town playing in visitor management, ensuring future growth in tourism proactively considers environmental impacts?
Thank you, Jeffrey. So the town of Banff has recently asked for a service level request. So in normal people speak, that means they are coming back to this new council with a budget request to undergo a human use management framework. And so what that looks like will be bringing the community together to have conversations of what are our desired outcomes. What do we want our town to be? What problem are we trying to solve for? I think tonight we've heard it's a vehicle problem. We've also heard it could potentially be a people problem. Too many people, too many vehicles. And so this undertaking will help us determine what we are trying to solve. And then as a community, we can talk about the tactics that will get us there. So we've also embedded that in our new Banff Community Plan, as well as the need for a Destination Stewardship Council. So that takes us to this next level of a regional approach. We heard here tonight that whatever decisions we make here can affect others downstream or upstream. So it's really important that we are looking at these solutions on a more regional basis and that we are being collaborative with our partners. So to answer your question, the next council will have this on their agenda. It is a priority. And the way forward will be looking at it through the lens of a human use management framework to ensure that we protect this environment, we have a thriving community, and we have a prosperous economy.
Okay, thank you, and I'm going to invite you to take a seat. Thank you very much, Mayor Domano, and I'm conscious of the time and the fact that you people probably want to get home sometime relatively soon here. So we're going to call it here. So I want to kind of just make some closing comments. If you still have a question for Mayor Domano or any of these candidates, you know what to do. You know how to find them, and it could start right here, right after we close the formal event here tonight in just a few minutes. Please note, and I'm grateful to those who encouraged you to remember what election day timing and so on. I have it here. So don't forget to vote, for one thing. Election day is Monday, October 20th, 2025. You can vote in advance Saturday, 11th of October, 10 to 2, or Wednesday, 15th of October, 3 to 7 p.m., or Thursday, 16th of October, 10 to 2, and all of those votes will be held at the Banff Town Hall, 110 Bear Street. If there's any, just a shout out to, thanks to Brenda and the Forever Canadian campaign. If anyone that hasn't signed that petition or wants to, go visit Brenda upon the end of our formal program here. Big thanks to my wonderful colleague Kendra, she of the questions hat and the scary timer. Thanks, Brent. Thanks for Kendra. Huge thanks to the sponsoring organizations and their talented volunteers and all those who contributed questions. Thanks to anyone in the room who's willing to help with chairs, because that's huge, and that would mean, and please hold your applause for the last two things that I'll mention. A huge thanks to all these brave candidates. A huge thanks to Mayor DeMano for coming out, and last but not least, a huge thanks to you, the audience. In a second, you get to applaud yourself, and here's why. Because you took 2 hours out of your busy day to come and do some active democracy and listen to what these fine folks had to say. You're being great citizens, and my hat is off to you. Give yourselves and these candidates a huge round of thanks. Okay, I'm Gareth Thompson, Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley. Thanks to everyone for a great 2 hours. I wish you all a very good evening and good night.